Howdy, folks. I'm Farron Wise. Thanks for joining Consuelo and Ethan on today's episode. We're pretty sure you'll find it interesting. Our producer, Toby Eunice, would like you to know that he's put a link in the description box below this video. The link will lead you to a comprehensive briefing document on today's topic. While you're watching, please take a moment to like our video and make a comment. Also, if you're not already, please subscribe to our channel and click the notifications bell to make sure you're informed when we release each new episode. Now, let's get on with today's program.
All right, so get this. We're diving deep today into this theory about John Collins Black's treasure hunt. It's got everybody talking.
Yeah, it's called the parable theory.
Parable theory, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so quick recap. We've got 5 treasure chests hidden across the U.S., right?
Right.
Clues are sprinkled throughout his book. There's treasure inside. And a potential fortune just, waiting to be found.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the twist. What if, like, all those pop culture references, like Ready Player One, Dungeons and Dragons.
What if those aren't the actual clues?
Yeah, what if they're not meant to be, like, literal clues?
Yeah, that's what's interesting. Remember how people went crazy during the Forest Fen treasure hunt?
Yeah.
They were so fixated on those locations in the poem.
Yeah, they thought it was like a direct map.
Yeah, and it seems like JCB might be doing something totally different.
Right, so are you thinking these references are more like, I don't know, like a metaphorical compass or something?
Yeah, precisely. It's more about the right mindset, the right approach to the whole thing.
Okay, I like that.
So think of it this way. You're stuck at a locked door. The references might not give you the key, but they might teach you how to kick the lock.
Ooh, that's good. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's break down this parable theory with like a real world example.
Yeah.
Right? JCB's book mentions Ready Player One.
Right.
Which, if you don't know, is basically a story about this massive online treasure hunt.
Right.
So what kind of lesson could we actually get from that?
Well, you got to think about how Wade Watts, the main guy, how he finally wins.
Right.
It's not because he's like this lone wolf genius or something.
Yeah.
He wins because he really gets the power of teamwork.
Collaboration.
Yes, collaborating with people who have, different skills, different knowledge.
Okay, so maybe JCB is like subtly telling us to do the same thing.
It's possible.
Share information, bounce ideas around, maybe even, form teams.
Could be. And don't forget the clues to the lion's share.
The big one.
Yeah, the big kahuna, those are split across the 4 smaller boxes.
Right.
It's almost as if JCB designed the hunt to actually reward those who work together.
That's fascinating. It adds a whole new layer to this whole thing.
Totally.
It's not just a solo mission anymore.
Yeah.
It's like a group adventure, a community effort.
And that sense of community, that passion for the hunt, that's a treasure in itself.
It really is. Okay, so Ready Player One is teamwork. What about Dungeons and Dragons?
Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, that one's a little more cryptic, I think.
It is on the surface, yeah.
Yeah.
But if you think about how you actually play D&D,
Yeah.
the core stuff, some interesting stuff pops up.
What do you mean?
Well, it's all about strategy,
Yeah.
Thinking ahead, planning your moves, adapting to crazy challenges, and, of course, problem solving.
Okay, but how does that translate to like a real treasure hunt? We're not literally fighting dragons out there, are we?
Well, maybe not literally.
Okay. Yeah.
But the mental stuff you need in D&D,
Yeah.
like figuring out riddles, understanding clues, figuring out your next move, those are all super valuable in JCB's hunt.
So it's not just about knowing like the exact spot on the map. It's
Right.
more about like having that D&D mindset.
Exactly. It's about seeing the bigger picture, understanding how the puzzles work and being ready to think outside the box.
So be adaptable, be resourceful, and maybe a little sneaky.
You got it. It's
Uh-huh.
like you're playing a really complex game, a bunch of puzzles all linked together. It's not just about going out there and searching.
Right, okay. So Ready Player One is teamwork. Dungeons and Dragons is that strategic thinking. But where does that leave us with actually solving JCB's clues?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is.
And that's where this whole parable theory gets really interesting. It's not just about, passively learning these lessons. It's about actually using them in your search.
Okay, so how do we do that? Give me a real example of how we can take this, metaphorical stuff and make it, practical.
All right, let's go back to Dungeons and Dragons for a second.
Okay.
One of the big things in D&D is character classes, right?
Right.
Each one has its own special skills and abilities. Like a warrior is great at fighting, but a rogue is sneaky and good at deception.
So are you saying we should like assign ourselves character roles in the real treasure hunt? Should I start practicing my lockpicking skills and wearing all black?
Maybe not literally, but do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
Think about your own strengths and weaknesses.
right.
Are you good at research? Are you a natural detective? Or maybe a great navigator? Figuring that out can help you figure out your role in a team or even just how you approach the hunt yourself.
So instead of trying to be good at everything, we should focus on what we're already good at
Mm.
and then find ways to, combine those skills, just like a good Dungeons and Dragons party.
Exactly. It's all about using your strengths within a team, knowing that everyone brings something unique to the table, and that success really comes down to finding those skills that work well together.
Man, this is making my head spin, but in a good way.
Yeah, it's a complex theory.
It is.
But that's what makes it so fascinating. It makes us think differently about treasure hunting. You got to go beyond the old ways and try something new, something more layered.
So it's not just about decoding clues, it's about decoding JCB himself, right?
Right.
Like understanding, I don't know, his motivations, his passions, how he sees the world.
Exactly. It's like seeing the whole hunt as a reflection of the guy who made it. It's like a puzzle box designed to challenge us on different levels. And that's what makes this hunt so special.
Yeah.
It's not just about the treasure, it's about the journey, the mental challenge, the sense of community that comes with it.
It's funny, we started talking about how these pop culture things might not be actual clues to the locations, but in a way, they've become clues to something even more important, understanding ourselves and the treasure we all carry inside.
And that's a treasure worth more than any gold or jewels.
Very well said.
Yeah.
But before we get too philosophical, let's get back to the practical side of things. We talked about the lessons from these parables, but how do we actually use them to, find those chests?
That's the heart of it all, isn't it?
It is.
It's one thing to understand it, but it's a whole other thing to actually do it.
So how do we bridge that gap? How do we take these metaphorical tools and turn them into real strategies?
That's what we're going to explore in the next part of our deep dive. Get ready to really use those brains because we're about to get down to the nitty-gritty of treasure hunting. Okay, Pac Man, right.
Yeah, Pac Man.
Like you said, seems pretty simple, at first.
Yeah.
But there's actually a lot to it when you really start thinking about it.
So we're not just talking about eating dots and running from ghosts, right?
Right.
There's got to be more to it than that.
There is. Think about it. Pac Man, he's always moving.
Yeah, he is.
He's in that crazy maze going up against these ghosts that never stop.
Relentless, yeah.
But he never gives up. He just keeps going, keeps adapting, always looking for the next dot, the next level.
Okay, so you're talking about persistence, like
Yeah.
never giving up, even when things get tough.
Exactly. It's about keeping that drive alive, that belief that the treasure's out there somewhere.
Right.
Treasure hunting, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
True.
You're going to hit dead ends, false leads, you're going to get frustrated.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's being able to push through that stuff to keep that Pac Man spirit alive.
I like that.
Yeah.
And it's so true.
Yeah.
We've all had those Pac Man moments in life
Totally.
when you feel like you're going in circles, hitting one roadblock after another. But it's that stubbornness, that refusal to quit, that gets you to that breakthrough.
You got it. And that's where the whole parable theory really makes sense. It's not about giving you a map to the treasure. It's about giving you the mental and emotional tools you need to deal with the tough stuff.
The inevitable challenges.
Exactly. It's like a reminder that sometimes the best treasure is the stuff you learn along the way, the resilience you build, the perseverance you develop.
Okay, so let's recap. Right.
Sure.
Ready Player One is teamwork.
Right?
Dungeons and Dragons is strategic thinking.
Uh-huh.
And now Pac Man is persistence.
Hmm.
It's like JCB gave us a treasure map to our own minds,
That's a great way to put it. And here's where things get even more interesting.
Okay, lay it on me.
What if we start, combining those lessons?
Oh, okay.
What if we take that Pac Man persistence and apply it to our teamwork, our strategic planning?
Whoa, my brain just exploded.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. It's not about keeping those lessons separate. It's about weaving them together, creating like a whole new approach that uses all of them.
Exactly. Imagine a team of treasure hunters who embody all three of those things. They work together perfectly, they approach the clues strategically, and they they never give up.
They would be unstoppable. Okay, I'm sold on the parable theory. It's not just a theory, it's like
Yeah.
a whole philosophy of treasure hunting.
It is.
But let's bring it back down to earth for a second.
Okay.
You've mentioned the lion's share chest a couple of times.
Mm.
What exactly is in this ultimate prize that everyone's after?
Well, besides the obvious stuff, gold, Jules JCB has put together this collection of things that any collector would go crazy for.
Okay, like what?
We're talking rare Pokemon cards, a 96-carat emerald, historical stuff connected to people like Pablo Picasso, Amelia Earhart,
Wow.
even a Bitcoin.
Wait, a Bitcoin like the digital currency?
That's right.
Wow, that's a modern twist.
It seems like JCB, he likes to mix the old and the new, the tangible and the intangible. It shows his wide range of interests, his unique taste. He wanted to create a treasure hunt that really has something for everyone.
It's like a treasure hunt for the 21st century, blending history, tech, pop culture, even a little bit of financial risk.
It is, and that's what makes it so captivating. It's not just about the money, it's about the stories behind those objects, the connections to the past, the glimpse into the mind of the guy who put it all together.
It makes you wonder, what was JCB really trying to do with this treasure hunt? Was it just for the thrill of the chase? Or was there something more he wanted to say?
That's a good question. Maybe he wanted to bring back that sense of adventure, remind us that there's still magic and mystery in the world, even with all the technology we have.
Or maybe he wanted to make us think differently, see the world in a new way, appreciate how history, technology, and human creativity are all connected.
Whatever his reasons, there's no doubt that JCB created something truly special, a treasure hunt that goes beyond the usual games and becomes a reflection of ourselves, our passions, our shared human experience.
It's funny, we started this whole deep dive talking about how these pop culture references might not be literal clues to the locations,
Right.
but in a way they've become clues to something much more valuable.
A deeper understanding of ourselves and the treasure we all carry inside.
Exactly. And that's a treasure that's priceless.
Absolutely.
But before we, get too philosophical here, let's get back to the practical stuff.
Sure.
We talked about what we can learn from these parables. But how do we actually use them in our search?
That's the real challenge, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
one thing to understand the ideas, but actually putting them into practice, that's a whole other thing.
So how do we do it? How do we take these metaphorical tools and turn them into, real world strategies?
That's what we're going to explore in the last part of our deep dive. Get ready to put those thinking caps on, because we're about to get into the real nitty-gritty of treasure hunting.
All right, so the big question, right? How do we actually use these parable theory lessons to actually find the treasure chests?
It's all about turning those big ideas into things you can actually do, steps you can take. Like, think about Ready Player One.
Right.
It was all about teamwork, right?
Yeah, collaboration.
So how do we use that in the real world?
Well, I guess the most obvious thing is to team up with other treasure hunters.
Right. But there's got to be more to it than just, finding a bunch of people and hoping for the best.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. Effective teamwork, it needs strategy. Think about the different roles people could have in a successful treasure hunt. You got your researchers, your puzzle solvers, your navigators.
Oh, and don't forget the tech people. With JCB mixing those old artifacts and digital clues like the Bitcoin, you got to have someone who knows their way around the internet.
Exactly. That's a great point. So, step 1, using that Ready Player One lesson, build a team with different skills.
Okay, got it. So, teams assembled. Now what? Do we just give everyone a copy of the book and say go?
Not quite. Remember Dungeons and Dragons?
Strategic thinking.
Right. You need a plan. How are you going to divide up the research? What skills is each person going to focus on?
And maybe even more important, how are you going to talk to each other, share what you find?
Exactly. You don't want everyone working on their own and missing those key connections.
Right.
So regular check-ins, brainstorming sessions, maybe even a shared database online where everyone can put their findings.
Hold on, a shared database. There are already all these forums and groups online about JCB's hunt.
Right.
People are sharing theories, their take on the clues, even possible locations.
That's right. And that takes us right back to Ready Player One.
Okay.
Wade and his friends, they were always using that online community, that shared knowledge. They knew they couldn't do it alone.
So we can use those online communities as a resource.
Exactly. It's like having a giant think tank right at your fingertips.
That's amazing. But okay, how do you sift through all that info? How do you know what's real and what's.
Not so real.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where those Dungeons and Dragons skills come in again.
Oh, right.
Thinking critically, analyzing the evidence, finding patterns.
Okay, so be like a detective.
Exactly. Don't just believe everything you see online. You got to be a little skeptical.
Okay.
Ask yourself, does this fit with what we know from the book? Does it make sense? Does it fit with the whole parable theory idea?
Right, like does it all add up?
Right. And this is where it gets really fun. Remember, we're not looking for just those literal clues. We're looking for themes, connections, hints, those little nudges from JCB that point us in the right direction.
Okay, so like if someone online says, "Hey, I think JCB hit a clue in this specific Dungeons and Dragons rulebook," we don't just
Run out and buy it.
yeah,
Yeah.
we think about it like why that rulebook? What's
Yeah.
special about it? How does it connect to the other clues, to the whole parable theory?
Exactly. It's a whole different way of thinking about treasure hunting. You're not just following instructions, you're in a mental game with the guy who made it.
A battle of wits.
Exactly. It tests how well you can think, how creative and strategic you can be.
I like it. Okay, so we talked about teamwork, strategic thinking, but what about Pac Man? Where does that persistence fit in?
That's what keeps you going when you're feeling discouraged. Treasure hunting, it takes time. You'll get frustrated, hit dead ends, you'll want to quit.
Like when you're playing Pac Man and you're trapped, those ghosts are closing in, you think it's over.
Right? But then
You find that power pellet.
exactly. And suddenly you're back in control.
So with the treasure hunt, those power pellets are like,
A new clue, a new way of looking at things, a breakthrough in your research. It's what sparks that passion again and keeps you going.
and that's why Pac Man is so important.
Yeah,
Without that persistence, you might miss those key moments, those breakthroughs.
exactly. It's about keeping that belief that the treasure's out there. Sometimes the best part isn't even the treasure itself, it's the journey, the challenges, the things you learn along the way.
It's like JCB saying, you want to find my treasure? You got to earn it. You got to think differently and never lose that sense of adventure.
And that's the whole point of the parable theory. It's not just a set of rules, it's a way of thinking, a philosophy of exploring and discovering.
So to wrap up our deep dive into JCB's treasure hunt, we've explored the parable theory, looked at what we can learn from it, and even talked about how to use it.
It's been a great discussion, and I hope everyone listening is feeling inspired to go on their own treasure hunt, whether it's a real one or just in their own lives.
So as you head out on your quests, remember Ready Player One, Dungeons and Dragons, and Pac Man. They've got some wisdom to share.
And most importantly, don't forget to enjoy the hunt, the excitement of discovery, and all the possibilities out there for those who are brave enough to explore.
Well, folks, we hope you found today's video interesting and informative. Make sure to hit the like button if you did. Also, think about sharing it with another treasure hunter. And if you're not already a subscriber, please take a moment to do so now. We look forward to seeing you next time. Take care, and remember, there's a treasure out there waiting for you to find it.